Welcome to Reviews That Scare with Jess and Blair. I'm Jess.
I'm Blair.
Blair, how are you?
I'm doing good, man. Yourself?
I am doing very well. We have a special guest.
We do indeed.
It's been a while since we've had a special guest. The last time it was your brother.
Yes.
And we had a lot of fun. And today it's my brother.
Yes, it is.
Hey,
My brother Scott. Scott, how are you doing? How are you?
I am doing awesome, guys. It's a pleasure to be here, long overdue. But
Yes,
I'm excited to get going.
Yeah, he's a longtime listener, a first-time special guest star.
Well, he was supposed to be our guest when we did the original Scream movie.
That's right.
Fell through though.
It fell
Conflicting
through.
schedules.
We are beyond excited to have you on this episode. It's a fun one. It's official. We are on to our second film in our favorite month, starting with the letter N, a month we like to call Sequels Month. And we have a fun one to talk about today. But before we do that, what do you say we chat a little bit about some horror news? Blairski, would
Yes,
you
sir.
like to kick this one off?
I just got a couple things. So I do not play this game, Dead by Daylight. A lot of people do. And there are two new villains coming to the game just announced, and that is going to be Chucky and Tiffany.
Tiffany is from Megan, right? No. Tiffany is from...
Tiffany is the bride of Chucky.
That's right. That'll be a lot of fun.
I think so, man. Could you just imagine little Chucky and Tiffany running around slaying people in a video game?
Now, you have played it before.
I have played it before. Yeah, I'm not good at it at all.
No.
Probably why I don't continue to play it to this day.
No, I've played it before as well, and I am absolutely trash at those games, as we all know. But Blair will sometimes force me to play them.
Yeah, I will, or at least try.
What else you got for horror news?
My last bit is they released the new trailer for the new Ghostbusters movie.
Yeah.
It looks okay. I'm glad they showed some throwbacks, like the old headquarters. The old car, of course, a couple of the older cast members. I saw Bill Murray and Dan Aykroyd both in the trailer, so it could be fun. It could be fun.
Yeah, Ernie Hudson is in it as well. He was,
is he?
Of course, in the original. This one called Ghostbusters: A Frozen Empire.
Yeah.
It's going to be directed by Gil Keenan, who directed Monster House.
Okay.
Quite a fun animated film.
Yeah, it is.
This one will be released March 29th, 2024. Pretty exciting.
I'm glad you had that information because I did not.
That was right off the dome. Didn't prepare it at all. I've got a couple pieces of horror news here. Saw 10, the latest installment in the Saw franchise, has hit a major milestone, reaching over $100 million at the box office. It becomes the 8th film in the franchise to reach that goal, which is pretty good.
That's wild for 10 movies.
Yeah. The only two that missed out would be Saw 6 and Spiral. I believe that's the one starring Chris Rock.
Chris Rock, yeah.
This is a major win for the studio, as the production budget was only $13 million.
Jesus, man.
Much like Five Nights at Freddy's, which we talked about on our last episode, big paydays. We can only imagine that both of these films will be seeing sequels, or, in Saw's case, an 11th Saw film.
Hello, movie. I think I read that Five Nights now has passed 200 million.
It's insane.
Yeah.
It's insane. That is a lot of money. And then finally, I've got one more here. Finally, a rating has been announced for the upcoming James Wan produced film, Night Swim.
Okay, and
it will be rated PG-13 for terror and violent content. I feel like over the past 2 weeks, I have seen this trailer a million times.
Yeah.
It played before The Exorcist. It played before
Five Nights.
What
Saw
else
10.
did we? I feel like, did it play before? No,
Terrifier.
It played
2.
before Terrifier. Yeah.
Yeah.
This one, you can watch the trailer now. It's basically just, it consists of a good old game of Marco Polo. It's set to be released January 5th, 2024. Should be neat. Should be neat.
I love your description of the trailer. Just a
It's
good old
Marco
game
Polo.
of Marco Polo. Yeah.
Yeah. Let's dive right into this week's episode, our second episode in sequels month, Scream 2. 1997 runtime for this one, 2 hours, gentlemen.
Mhm. It's
Initial
okay.
thoughts on the runtime.
It's okay because it's a Scream movie. It's okay.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I mean, we all know that sweet spot, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
It didn't feel like, it didn't lose me with the length. Maybe a hair long,
Mm.
but manageable. And I mean, the story kept it feeling fresh, right? Like it didn't go stale with that length. But I felt fine with the length.
I agree. That initial thought of it's like, 2 hours, a horror movie, it's going to drag. You know, I
Mhm.
feel like if they're with that time limit, they tend to drag a lot more than not. But yeah, this one had really good pacing
Mhm.
right from the get-go.
A 2 hour movie that did not feel like 2 hours.
Yeah. Yeah, simple and sweet. Let's jump into some fun facts. Blairski, you got some fun facts on Scream 2?
Yeah, I mean there are so many fun facts about this movie. To be honest, I got 3 written down here. The studio Dimension started moving forward on this film while the first Scream was still in theaters, which is wild for a sequel.
Crazy. Yeah.
And the very original script, so the first script to this movie, there were originally 4 killers.
Oh, wow.
Derek, the boyfriend.
Yep.
Haley, the best friend.
Okay.
Cotton Weary, and Nancy Loomis.
Okay.
But the script got leaked online.
Mhm.
So throughout filming, they would basically rewrite the script day by day and not tell anyone who was actually the killer. And they even had one version, which they didn't use, obviously, where Dewey was actually the killer.
No, Deputy Dewey.
Right?
This is one thing that I really love, and we'll get into it, and I'm sure in likes and dislikes, but it's one thing I really love about this franchise. It is a good old-fashioned whodunit.
Mhm.
And
Exactly.
a lot of the reveals, or some of the reveals, are a lot more lackluster than others. I'm looking at you, the latest installment in the Scream franchise, but a lot of them are a lot of fun. But we'll talk about that later. Blairski, what else you got for fun facts?
The last one I have here is Matthew Lillard apparently has an uncredited cameo and appears at the sorority party. I can't even say that word. Sorority party. And it also revealed in a 2009 interview that Stu was originally intended to be revealed as the killer in Scream 3, but the idea
Okay.
was scrapped.
Mhm.
Obviously.
Stu has one of the best death scenes of the franchise. I love it.
The
I
TV.
think I know me personally, I was hoping that Stu would be the killer in the most recent one.
Yeah, a lot of people were hoping that.
Just didn't happen. I've got a couple of fun facts here. Robert Rodriguez, director of such films as Planet Terror, From Dusk Till Dawn, Sin City, and the Spy Kids franchise, directed scenes from Stab, which is, of course, the movie within the movie, which I thought was really, really cool.
Yeah, that's
They
pretty
get
awesome.
Another legit director to come in and direct the movie within a movie. Like Blairski was saying, with such a quick turnaround, principal photography began just 6 months after the release of Scream, and the movie was released less than a year after the original. Louis Arquette, who plays Chief Hartley, is the real life papa
Mhm.
of our favorite Deputy Dewey,
Yeah,
which is pretty cool.
yeah, that's pretty awesome.
There were a couple different titles considered for the sequel, including Scream Again,
Mhm.
Scream Louder, and Scream, the sequel. Not bad.
I'm glad they stuck with Scream too.
Yeah. Total gross was $101 million, a third of which was earned opening weekend, which
Wow.
is crazy. 1997 was a huge year for movies. Both the original and this one were 2 of the highest grossing films to come out that year. Just to give you an idea, Titanic also came out in 1997.
Yeah.
Huge year for movies. And then finally, Wes Craven submitted 8 different cuts before it finally passed MPAA rating.
Fucking
Unreal.
MPA. Fucking MPA,
Yeah.
man.
let's chat about the fine folks who made this film. Of course, directed by the legend Wes Craven, also directed Scream, 1984's A Nightmare on Elm Street, The Last House on the Left, and The Hills Have Eyes, just to name a few. His resume goes on for miles. This one, written by Kevin Williamson, also wrote Scream, I Know What You Did Last Summer, 171 episodes of The Vampire Diaries, and also created Dawson's Creek. Scotty, big Dawson's Creek fan?
I've never seen an episode.
Blairski?
I've also never seen an episode, but I have watched The Vampire Diaries.
A big Vampire Diaries fan. Okay. This one, and again, we'll talk about it in likes and dislikes. What a cast in this movie. Let's just name a few because the list is honestly a mile long. Nev Campbell as Sidney Prescott. Also starred in 1998's Wild Things, 1996's The Craft, and 142 episodes of Party of Five. Courtney Cox as Gail Weathers, also starred in 1987's Masters of the Universe, 1988's Cocoon: The Return, 1994's Ace Ventura: Pet Detective, and in one of the greatest television shows of all time, Murder, She Wrote, where she played Carol Bannister for 2 episodes. Also Friends. David Arquette as Deputy Dewey. Also starred in 1999's Never Been Kissed, Muppets from Space, and It's a Very Muppets Christmas Movie, 1994's Airheads, and 2000's Ready to Rumble. Scott, I know that's one of your favorites.
When I was watching Scream
Classic.
2 last night, it hit me. I was like, I haven't seen that movie in so long, but we must have watched Ready to Rumble 100 times when we were kids.
That was a staple growing up. Blairski was Ready to
Crown
Rumble.
me!
Crown me. David Arquette, of course, WCW World Heavyweight Champion, one of the greatest wrestlers ever to live. Liev Schreiber as Cotton Weary, also starred in 2015 Spotlight, 1999's The Hurricane, also a great movie that we grew up on, 2004's The Manchurian Candidate, 2006's The Omen, and in 82 episodes, Ray Donovan. Roger Jackson as the voice of Ghostface. He's been the voice of Ghostface in all of the films.
Yeah.
Not only that, also did the voice of Mojo Jojo in the Powerpuff Girls, which is pretty cool. Pretty iconic voice. Honestly, like I said, this is a massive cast, just to name a few, including Omar Epps, Jada Pinkett Smith, Heather Graham, Sarah Michelle Gellar, aka Blairski,
Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
Buffy the Vampire Slayer, Joshua Jackson, aka Captain Duck, aka Charlie Conway, aka Division 5 Mighty Ducks, Jerry O'Connell, Jamie Kennedy, Tori Spelling, Portia DeRosa, Luke Wilson, Laurie Metcalf, and Timothy Oliphant, just to name a few. Honestly, it keeps going and going and going and going. What a cast in this movie. That's all I have for cast. Unreal. We'll talk about it later.
Really unreal, yeah.
Before we do that, let's jump into the synopsis for Scream 2, courtesy of our dear friends at IMDb. 2 years after the first series of murders, as Sydney acclimates to college life, someone donning the Ghostface costume begins a new string of killings.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah,
That's what,
That's what happens.
yeah, that's what happens. Thank you, IMDb. You did it again. This leads us to one of our favorite segments of the show, Kill Count.
Kill count. The time of the show we count the kills.
Blairski, what do we have for a kill count on this one?
Total kill count in this movie of 10, and that is including the killers.
Okay, 10.
Not bad. Not a bad kill count. We get 2 kills before the title of the movie.
That's right. Yeah, 2 really good kills too.
Mhm.
I'm trying to remember, just because, again, we'll talk about it in likes and dislikes, I'm sure. The rules. It was mentioned that the sequel has to have more kills than the original. I'm trying to remember what the kill count for Scream was.
Oh, I do think it was smaller.
It was less than 10. 10 is pretty
feel
Had
high.
to have been.
I think it was maybe 6 or 7, if I remember, because I figured I tried to count the first time I watched it too. I think it was about 6 or 7 in the first one.
It's pretty close.
Yeah, maybe a couple more in Scream 2.
Six sounds right to me, and that's also no. 7 sounds right to me,
Mhm.
including the killers in the first Scream.
Let's since we're already on topic for killings, let's jump into our next segment, likes and dislikes. The portion of the show where we talk about what we liked, what we didn't like, and everything in between. Let's dive right in. So obviously it's a slasher film.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of us watch it for the kills. What do you think of the kills in this one?
I like them. I loved the kills in this movie. I love from the very first one where he puts his ear up to to the bathroom stall, which is a big no-no.
A huge no-no.
Yeah.
So unsanitary.
Yeah,
is.
the kills. There was a lot of knife work. They weren't as like I remember. I don't want to compare it too much to the first one, but there was obviously some iconic kills in the first one. I think these ones were a little more, mostly the knife work, I think, but some great kills, some really good kills.
Yeah, I find that is kind of, I mean, you'll see it again in the later ones where Ghostface gets a little bit more creative with weapons. We see a big shotgun scene in the latest film. But yeah, when you think of Ghostface, you kind of think of the knife work.
The knife work, yeah.
The knife work. We are huge intros fans. Scotty boy, you know that. The listeners at home, you know that Blair and I love the intros for this movie. Now, the original Scream movie is one of our favorite intros of all time. It's iconic.
It is, to me, the best intro of all time.
So where does Scream 2 hold up? Because also a great intro.
It's awesome, man. I still love it. I still love it. As I said, we get 2 kills before the title.
Yeah.
And they really, like, they don't waste any time getting you just immersed into the movie, right? There's excitement and tension and suspension built like right off the bat, right? And you get these super strong cameos with Omar Epps and Jada Pinkett Smith, right? 2 huge stars at the time and even now, who have pretty small roles, but right off the bat, like they just leave such a strong impression, right? Super iconic, especially having to live up to Scream 1, like that intro, obviously. And I think it does pretty well holding up.
It is kind of interesting that Scream 1 also started with a huge star that you just assume, oh, they're going to be the lead in this movie. And within 5 minutes, it's like these huge Hollywood stars are no longer with us.
Yeah.
It's kind of cool where it's just like, oh, I have to like everything is it's free game right now. Like rules are off the table. Everyone could be a victim here. Kind of neat.
I love how even in the new Scream movies, they still follow that same formula where it's an intense intro opening even before the title, and it's always a famous actor in that scene.
Yeah. And I love, of course, when that title card Scream 2 comes on. Is so excellent. I would love to sit and watch a movie in a theater that is as wild as that.
Oh man, right?
Blair's Kid, we've been close. When we saw Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey, it was pretty wild in there.
Yeah, but it was
Terrifier too, but nothing like that.
Nothing like the screening for Stab.
Yeah, wild. Just wildness. People chasing each other up and down the aisles. Where is the usher?
Absolutely launching popcorn at each other. I don't think one person is sitting down. They're all wearing, the gear that they've been given as they're entering the theater and stuff, right?
Yeah. I mean, we mentioned it, I think, in the first Scream episode of how iconic Ghostface's costume is. And Scream 2 is just a great example of that. Even in this fictional world, we see all of these fans dressed up as Ghostface. And honestly, around this same time, that was like the go-to Halloween costume, I feel. And of course, we mentioned it in the first Scream episode as well. That costume is everywhere.
Yeah.
Masks were a little bit different, but yeah, everyone wanted to be Ghostface.
On a little bit different of a note, on that same scene in the theater, I love the like satirical aspect of it, how it in real life people take these horrific events and just glamorize them, right? Like you look at serial killers, the Jeffrey Dahmers, people are dressing up as him for Halloween nowadays and things like that.
Yeah.
These crazy things have just happened in this town. People have been killed, and people are turning it into this event where they're just having fun with it and stuff. Like it really mimics real life. In my, like when I was watching it, I was thinking, I can see this actually happening as people are being killed, people are making fun out of it almost, right? There's that aspect.
It's so bizarre. We don't realize how much it affects other people because we're so far away from it. It doesn't affect us personally.
Mhm.
So it's almost like, it's not real because it didn't really affect me. Meanwhile, there's so many people who are, suffering because of, certain incidences or whatever. It does mimic real life for sure.
Yeah.
We get a nice little Nick Cave and the Bad Seeds with Red Right Hand.
What?
Which, the great song Red Right Hand, which we get, I believe, in every single Scream movie.
Every single one of them. That song
I love
is
it.
in every one of them.
I can't get enough of it. Good old Australian boy, Nick Cave. What else did we like about this one, boys?
I did have that written down. I love the soundtrack to this movie, both the score and just the music in this movie. Great. It's so Scream. Every Scream movie kind of has the similar sound to it, and I absolutely love it.
Yeah, there's one scene in particular where the music really stands out to me. It's a perfect example of how score can add tension. But there's a really cool scene where the character Cece is walking through the sorority house, and Nosferatu is playing on the TV in the other room. And the two scores at one very brief moment blend together. And it's just, it's perfect. They work so well together, and it's excellent. I love it.
Good. I didn't even notice that, but I love that scene.
Yeah, it's really, really cool stuff.
Love Buffy.
Huge Buffy fan.
Huge Buffy fan.
We know Blair.
Let's talk about how this movie is a sequel. And more than once, they openly diss and break down like exactly what a sequel is supposed to be.
This movie is very aware of what it is, and it's one of those things where it's almost they're playing it off as being very cool, where it's like, oh, we're making fun of it too, but we're like, because we're making fun of it, we're cool. But it works. I think it works.
I also love the idea that the writers, they're obviously such like students of film, right? That they like these subtle nuances and these subtle homages to the movies that have obviously inspired them and things like that, right? You get that scene where they're in the university or college classroom and they're discussing the movies, and Randy does how many different impressions of Marlon Brando and things like that. They like making these little nudges towards these other movies and stuff, and
definitely student of the film.
And they're trying to compare the which sequels like in cinema history are better than the original, and I love that too.
Definitely students of film for sure. I love, along with that, how they're following a formula, much like they did in the first one. There are rules to a horror movie. And much like in this one, there are rules to a sequel in horror movies, and they're completely different than the rules that we learned in the first one, which are really, really cool.
And I think Scream does such a good job, because it's not a parody, but it does such a good job of bordering that, horror parody almost, because it's obviously not the scariest horror movie, but it has all the same aspects, I find, as other horror movies. There's the, psychotic killer. There's some pretty good kills and things like that. But there's also just that little aspect, and it's not a comedy, but it's got that silliness aspect to it that just keeps it lighthearted enough, right?
As did the first one as well. I think we could say the first one. I mean, I wouldn't say this one is any more silly than the first one.
No, not at all.
Yeah, it works really, really well.
I feel like that's a big reason why this whole series has been such a success.
Absolutely. I want to think, what do I have here? We had mentioned just everyone's a suspect in this one. How do we feel? I mean, this movie's been out since 97.
Mhm.
How do we feel about the killer/killers in this movie?
Like the reveal.
The reveal, who it actually is. Were you completely shocked? Did you even care?
For one, I dig it. I like these killers in this movie.
Yeah.
I wasn't shocked when I first saw the movie about Mickey
Mhm.
being a killer at all.
Yeah.
But Nancy Loomis was a surprise. My 1st
Mhm.
watch, she was definitely a surprise.
And I
kind of
agree.
that, go ahead.
Go ahead. Sorry. Well, I was going to say, I like the fact that there was, and he wasn't obvious by any means, but I like the fact that, Mickey, you could have suspected him maybe throughout the movie. And then they added that second killer who you would have never expected at all. Right. And there's actually
Mhm.
an identity reveal.
Yeah.
Right. So you had no idea watching throughout the entire movie that this person would have had any sort of motive at all. Right.
Yeah.
So that the addition of the second killer definitely was I think it was a nice twist.
And tying it back to that first movie where, like you said, she does have that connection to, one of the killers in the first movie was really, really cool. Yeah, it's some of it is a little bit predictable. But again, like Blair was saying, he had mentioned that there could have been 4 killers in this movie.
Mhm.
And really throughout this movie, there were times where it's like, oh, they're the killer for sure.
Yeah.
And then it's, oh no, they're the killer. They're going to be the killer. And then it's, it's a whodunit really till the end. And that's what I love about this franchise in particular is the reveal is such a big thing.
Yeah. Do you guys have any dislikes to this movie?
I really I didn't try and find a dislike, I guess, but I was trying to think of something to say. I really didn't. I didn't really have any. No.
Jesse, do you?
Honestly, I feel like it's a really, really, as far as sequels go and as far as horror movie sequels go, I think it's really strong. And I think it helps that, like the original, it was filmed in 1997. There was 6 months in between. They really had no downtime to overthink it.
Mhm.
And I think that's where it succeeded. There wasn't a 10-year gap like there was for Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2, where they maybe just overthought it and they went too big. I think this was perfect. They stayed right in the wheelhouse. Good pacing. We had mentioned that before. The kills were great. They followed the rules for a sequel. I really have no dislikes for this one. The acting was great in this one.
The acting
Yeah,
was
that's
great.
Usually I'll point out, it's like, the script wasn't great. The acting wasn't great. No, I thought the script and the way the actors played with the script was perfect. And sure, a lot of the characters were kind of goofy. I keep thinking of Randy.
I love Randy.
And you just kind of roll your eyes, but it's like, no, that's Randy's character, though.
Yeah.
Randy is the person to make light of a situation. I have really not a whole lot of bad things to say about this one. This is a fun watch, really fun watch.
I was thinking when Courtney Cox makes her first appearance, her hair is terrible. She has those red streaks and everything.
Yeah.
And Dewey gets a little jab at her.
Yeah.
And I
nice
think
streaks.
I don't think she shows up with streaks in her hair again after that scene. So I was pleased to see that, but at my first glance, I wasn't really digging the hair.
Again, and that's a thing too, where it's like the writers know that the audience is going to be well aware of the streaks in the hair. Let's get it off the table
Yeah.
and let's mention it.
Yeah.
Let's give that to Dewey. Let's give him a little shot.
Yeah.
And Dewey isn't usually one to get one over,
Right. He's just he's absolute lovable.
He's like a punching bag. Yeah.
He
Yes.
is the lovable punching bag. But he gets in that nice little jab. It's great. Yeah.
Her hair was awful in Scream 3 too. It's so bad. I did have a dislike.
Okay.
It was just one scene in particular, which is when Derek sings to Sydney in the cafeteria. I don't know. It threw me off a little bit, guys. It threw me off a bit.
It seems maybe a bit out of place.
Yeah, I was wondering if it was completely necessary, but he did nail it. I'll say that.
Yeah, he did. He did a good job. He nailed every line.
Good set of pipes. Yeah, good set of pipes. He got the whole cafetorium behind him. They loved it. They loved it. Blairski, not so much.
Not so much,
No,
yeah.
but other than that, though, you guys are right. A very, very solid sequel.
Mhm.
It's strong. Honestly, I think that's pretty strong. The only note being, maybe a bad, unnecessary rendition of "I Think I Love You." But what are you gonna do, right? The man's in love. What do we think? Do we want any more likes, any more dislikes? Should we move right along?
I've discussed everything I've written down anyway.
Let's
Yeah,
move.
good.
Let's move right along then to our next favorite segment: lessons we learned from watching 1997's Scream 2.
Lessons we learned from watching. Insert title of movie here.
The segment of the show where we talk about the valuable life lessons we learned from watching said movie. Who wants to start this one off?
Go for it, Scotty.
Well, I just have kind of a one with a part A and B. I will say I learned that if you find yourself hanging onto the hood of a vehicle as a crazed serial killer speeds around to trying to throw you off, and you end up going through a construction zone, try and get yourself off the hood as quickly as possible.
Yeah.
Yep.
Because
Let go.
the one of the kills that wasn't a knife kill was I believe a piece of steel pipe that impales the officer's head.
Yeah.
And that was pretty gruesome. So that's one of the things I learned. And then just on that kind of same note, if while being attacked by a serial killer, if there is an opportunity to run while the killer is seemingly knocked unconscious, just run. You don't need to be going back to check on him. Just get out of there.
Yeah.
But she needs to know who it is behind the mask.
Dad, they
Yeah.
could have lifted up that mask as they were crawling over top of him.
Yeah,
Mhm.
here's an idea.
Yeah.
Find out later. Find out later.
Or find out later.
Not your job to find out. Blairski, what did you learn?
I got two things here. My first is I learned that the 90s is no time to play hero.
Nope, nope, nope.
And my second thing I learned is it is my life goal to attend a movie premiere as lit as the Stab movie.
Yeah,
premiere.
absolutely.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. Yeah. I've got a couple here. Prank calls are a criminal offense persecuted under Penal Code 653-M. Don't do it, kids. Don't answer the phone ever. If you're in a frat, it's a big no-no to give your Greek letters to your girl. Big no-no, very taboo. Rules of a horror movie sequel. Number 1, the body count is always bigger. Number 2, the death scenes are always much more elaborate, more blood, more gore, carnage, candy. Serial killers are typically white males. And then finally, Randy's favorite scary movie is Showgirls.
You learned quite a bit, man.
I did a few things, yeah. I'm a student of the film. Oh,
Mhm.
goodness. Let's move right along to our next segment, Line of the Night.
Line of the night. Line of the night. Line of the night. Line of the night. Line of the night. Line of the night. Line of the night. Line of the night. Line of the night.
The segment of the show where we discuss our favorite lines from the movie. They might give us chills, they might give us the giggles. All we know is that they are our favorites. Scotty boy, did you have a favorite line of the night or a few favorite lines?
I got a few here. Just kind of right at the start. Jada Pinkett Smith, while they're in the movie theater, she goes, "Bitch, hang up the phone and star 69 his ass."
Yeah.
Which I think is basically what all of us are thinking when in a movie when someone's
In a
getting a
horror movie.
mysterious phone call. It's just like hang
Yeah.
up the phone.
Yeah, call the cops.
Yeah. We have Randy, who just simply says sequels suck. And just kind of as we've already discussed,
Yeah.
they poke a lot of fun at the fact that this is a sequel and sequels aren't always everyone's favorite.
Yeah.
And then the last one I have is Dewey says to Gail, How do you know that my dim-witted inexperience isn't merely a subtle form of manipulation used to lower people's expectations, thereby enhancing my ability to effectively maneuver within any given situation?
Good job, Scotty. Good job.
Which I don't think is the case with Dewey, but
No, Deputy Dewey, heart of gold.
I feel like that line would have been so hard to pull off during filming.
I'm glad I got it out.
Yeah, that's what I was
Oh.
saying. Good job, man. That's a
Flawless,
tough one.
flawless. Oh goodness, Blairski, what do you got for line of the night?
Just kind of two segments of lines. One is Dewey. He's talking to Randy. Gail Weathers is smoking. And Dewey goes, "When did she start smoking?" Randy says, "Ever since those nude pictures on the internet." In which Gail replies, "It was just my head, but it was Jennifer Aniston's body." Which I thought was great. A good Friends reference.
There's a few Friends references in this one.
Yeah,
I
there
think
is.
David Schwimmer got a shout out too.
David
Yeah.
Schwimmer, yeah.
Yeah, apparently he played Dewey in the Stab movie. David
Yeah.
Schwimmer did. Last line of the night. It was also at the beginning with Jada Pinkett. They're watching the movie and she goes, "Why is she naked? What does that have to do with the plot? Her being butt ass naked?" And to which Phil replied, "I don't know about the plot, but I'm getting a stiffy."
Dear Lord. Oh God. All right, so good lines so far. I've got a couple here. Deputy Dewey to Gail. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have some oozing to do. Phonehead. Dewey's response to Gail after she called him a bonehead. He calls her a phonehead.
I missed that. It's
Oh,
hilarious.
goodness. Ghostface says to Randy, "Why are you even here, Randy? You'll never be the leading man." Thought that was pretty great.
Yeah.
Sydney says towards the end, "You're forgetting one thing about Billy Loomis. I killed him," which I thought was great.
I almost wrote
And
that
then-
one down.
Finally, one of my favorite lines. This is such a stupid line, but sorority sister Murphy says, "Hi. No, I really mean it. Hi."
Yeah. Portia de Rossi. That's
Yeah.
hilarious.
Hi.
Yeah, she's
No, I
great
really
in this
mean
movie.
Yeah, yeah. Goodness. Her and her great American accent, Scott, you had mentioned
Mhm.
earlier today.
Yeah, it needs a little work.
Yeah, just a little bit. Oh, goodness. That leads to our favorite segment of the show, Celebrity Lookalike Time.
Celebrity lookalike time.
The time of the show where we take a look at the cast and discuss their celebrity doppelgangers. A spoiler alert, it usually comes down to the character's hairstyle. Scotty Boy, special guest, why don't you kick this
Mhm.
one off?
So I've got two. Randy, I think, looks like a young freestyle motocross professional, Carrie Hart.
Ah.
Definitely the goatee, because I think Carrie Hart was big on the soul patch.
That's right.
So the facial hair a little bit. And then my second one was Mickey. Actually, reminded me of Jack Nicholson from The Shining.
Okay, yeah, the hairdo.
Yeah.
The
man.
Widow's Peak. He's got the crazy eyes, you know. So
Definitely. Here's
those are
Mickey.
the two I had. Yes. Here's Mickey.
Those are good. Blairski, what do you got?
Well, I also had Mickey reminded me of a young Jack Nicholson from The Shining.
Nice.
I also had that. And I also had Randy, but to me, he reminded me of Shaggy from Scooby Doo.
Also the goatee.
Yeah,
The
also the
Shagster.
goatee.
Yeah, yeah.
And the hair for sure. Yeah.
Nice. I got a couple here. I'm going to start with Randy, and down to the spiky hair and the excellent goatee. He reminded me a bit of Canadian rock and roll frontman, Mr. Chad Kroger, lead singer of Nickelback. It's not like you. Say sorry. I have another Canadian singer-songwriter lookalike. Courtney Cox, to me, looks a little bit like Nelly Furtado.
Yeah.
Mm.
I could see that.
Mhm.
Yeah, just a little bit. And then finally, Mrs. Loomis reminded me a bit of SNL alumni Rachel Dratch, aka Debbie Downer. It's in the eyes. It's in the eyes.
A lot of crazy eyes in this one.
A
Yeah,
lot.
there were.
There's an awful lot of crazy eyes in this one. Yeah. This leads us to our final rating for 1997's Scream 2 Scotty Boy. Out of 5 rousing renditions of the legendary love song I Think I Love You from Blair's second favorite Tom Cruise movie, Top Gun. Second only to Cocktail. What do you give Scream 2?
I am going to give Scream 2 4.5 rousing renditions of the legendary love song I Think I Love You from Blair's second favorite Tom Cruise movie, Top Gun. Second only to Cocktail out of 5.
Excellent rating. Excellent rating. Blairski, Scream 2, what do you give?
Jesse Scott, I am also going to be giving it 4.5 rousing renditions of the legendary love song I Think I Love You from my second favorite Tom Cruise movie, Top Gun, second only to Cocktail, which I've never seen.
All right. You've seen it many a times. I'm going to round it out here. Yeah, 4.5 rousing renditions of the legendary love song, I Think I Love You, from Blair's second favorite Tom Cruise movie, Top Gun. Second, only to Cocktail, out of 5. This movie's great.
Yeah.
It's awesome. Yeah.
It is a lot of fun. And wow, if you're going to watch a horror movie sequel, consider Scream 2 because it's great. Chef's
It's
kiss.
a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun. I hope we get to do Scream 3 and 4 down the road. I remember Scream 3 not being so good.
Yeah, it's kind of where the rules of a horror movie go out the window and it's a free for all. This has been a lot of fun. Blairski, thank
It
you
has
as
been.
per always. Scotty
Yes,
boy,
yes.
loved having you on.
Yes,
Finally,
thank you, Scotty.
Thank you guys. Yeah, it's been awesome.
we'll hopefully have you on again soon. But until then, this has been Reviews at Scare with Jess and Blair and special guest. I'm Jess.
I'm Blair.
I'm special guest.
Remember to stay scary.
And eat every
Every
sandwich.
time.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to Reviews at Scare. Make sure you check out our Linktree at linktree/Reviews at Scare. That's linktr.ee/Reviews at Scare, which has links to our Instagram, YouTube, Patreon, Twitch, and many other things. If you'd like to email us, you can reach us at reviewsatscare@gmail.com. Thanks for listening, and remember to stay scary and eat every sandwich. A proud member of Pod Nation TV.